Hi guys, this is Charlie from Vamos Gaming. So looking for the best PC price you so you don't have to. Today I came about an interesting video. If you look at our screen here, Hardware Unbox actually did manage to drop a 5060 review, which is not the biased preview that you have been seeing in some smaller media outlets or some of the game publications or hardware publications which are heavily biased, which talk about multi-frame generation and use that to boost the numbers over the 3060. They didn't even compare the 4060. So Hardware Unbox actually did a review that they managed to get a 5060 in Taiwan while they're doing Computex, and they somehow got their hands on the drivers, which I think through their sources, through their networks, managed to get it and managed to do a review of the 5060. So today is technically launch day. You can actually find the 5060 for sale, and I managed to find it not in Singapore, maybe in the physical sim shops you might see it, but I don't have the price list for them yet. Sitting at home, I'm not down there physically, but I can actually see 5060s for sale, not just the TIs, on places like Amazon as well as Newegg. So Newegg has it listed as well at here, so it's converted into Singapore dollars. So it is launched in US, but as one of the videos from Daniel Owen is saying, that it is currently sitting at MSRP price in the US, and it is not being sold out at all. So not a lot of people are actually buying it, because I think people are actually aware that 8GB GPUs are not really good to buy brand new in 2025. So what I'm recommending now is, if you're considering a 5060 GPU, let's say if you're upgrading from an old GPU, maybe a 1660 Super, or maybe you're upgrading from a really old, like maybe a 970 or something around that range, and maybe even older cards. So like I have a user who has a 2080 Super or 2080, and he was considering to upgrade to the 4060, and I told him, no, actually no, your 2080 non-super is actually really good. The 4060 actually performs less. So for whatever reason, if you're on an older GPU, maybe the 10,000 series, maybe you're on a 1060, for example, and you're looking to upgrade to the 5060, please don't. I will strongly recommend for you to look to the used market, like buy a used 3070, or even better, you can top up a little bit more to buy a used 6800 or even a 6800 XT from AMD. Because when we're looking at okay, so first let's look to the reviews, right? Why do I recommend a 3070? Because if you look at the charts from Hardware Unboxed, the 5060 is performing around here, let's say clear obscure, and the 3070 actually outperforms it by a little bit. So take note that both are 8GB of VRAM, so it is pretty fair. Like the 3070 should perform similarly, like when it comes to like high textures and all that, compared to the 5060. So you're not losing anything by going for the 3070, right? And if you are looking at Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, the 5060 is performed at exactly the same as the 3070. And if you're looking at Delta Force, which is at 1080p, so 5060 is like 138. And if you look at, where is the 5060, 3060 Ti? Where's the 3070? Okay, 3070 outperforms the 5060. So 3070 performs better. If you're looking at Stalker 2, Chernobyl, 5060 is at here 47, and 3070 is right above it, so it still outperforms it. And take note, the 7700 XC is another option I'll talk about later as well. It also outperforms the 5660. And if we're talking about Counter-Strike 2 esport gamer, so like no VRAM issues, right? So 5060 is 484. It's actually faster than the 3070 by just a little bit. But I would say if you're going for the 3070, you wouldn't be losing out much. But if you're playing more modern games, okay, let's say 5060. So at Warhammer 4000 Space Marine 2, 3070 I think might lose out a little bit. Yep, so it loses by about 9 FPS. So pretty similar, but it loses. Okay, Jedi Star Wars Survivor 5060. 3070 wins slightly, just slightly. So I would say more or less even in Jedi Star Wars. Call of Duty Black Ops. Okay, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, 5060 is about 75 FPS, and 3070 outperforms it by 81 FPS. So Plague Tale Requiem 5060 is 87, so it wins against the 3070. So I would say actually most of this GPU trade blows, but let's look at Starfield 5060. It beats the 3070. Nope, 3070 beats it at Starfield. So I would say there's quite a few games benchmark here. This is at 1080p, whereby the 3070 more often than not will win against the 5060. And that's why I'm recommending the 3070, because if you look at price, Amazon, the cheapest I can find it, is selling at about 552 Sing dollars. Newegg is selling at 475, but you have to include shipping because we're not buying from US. Newegg is a US website, so if I add in shipping, it's also in the range of 500 plus. And if we look at my trusty spreadsheet, so right here, I have it listed here, Newegg plus shipping and all that. It's about $530, and the MSRP of a 5060, which is actually $300 US. If I convert it plus, at the exchange rate of 1.29 US dollar to Sing dollars and 9% GST, it will become $422 in terms of Singapore's MSRP for the 5060. So as per new launches, I'm more likely to be sure that it's gonna sell for above MSRP in Singapore. So I think the Newegg price around here, 524, is pretty good estimate of what you will sell at Simlim. So that is about 24% over MSRP. At $524, so keep that in mind. And now let's compare to a used 3070. So this is on Carousell. So on Carousell, if I look for used 3070s, right, you can find used 3070s easily below 400. So 350 is actually considered quite expensive. There's one here selling at 315. There's another one. So it's quite a few selling at 350, but there are cheaper ones. So another one selling the Zotac version at 320. Zotac versions are slightly cheaper because they cost less when you buy them. So there's another one selling the Zotac version at 320, one selling the palette version at 325. So you can see that there are actually many options for the 3070 at below $400. Then that is taking note that the 5060 will sell above $500. So if you're buying, even if you're buying a 3070, let's say at $350, you are saving almost 200 Sing dollars from so-called downgrading from the 5060 to the 3070. But actually the 3070 performs better in most games. So just buying a 3070 just makes better sense if you're considering the 5060 for any reason. And if you have the budget of around 500, I would say don't even consider the 5060, don't consider the 3070. Go and buy a 7700 XT or a 7800 XT, or you can go to the used market and get a 6800. Because as you can see, there are some they are selling at 6800 at $350. I'm not too sure whether this is the only one. Maybe it was repaired or faulty. 6800 XC selling at $450. And take note, this with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Because some people will argue that, oh, how about a 3080? A 3080 has 10 gigabytes of VRAM. If you're talking about the 10 gigabyte, not the 12 gigabyte version. But 3080s are still undergoing the Nvidia inflation premium, whereby if you look at it, the cheapest 3080 I can find is about 475, and that's only with 10 gigabytes of VRAM. Some games I would say might be running into issues with VRAM even at 10 gigabyte, especially for the modern games. Like Danny Owen has made a good comparison video comparing the 8 gigabyte 5060 Ti compared to the 16 gigabyte 5060 Ti, and he has found that, if you look through his video here, he has found that actually quite a few cases where the game would run FPS wise okay, but in terms of textures, the 8 gigabyte GPU would show a lot less textures. Like in Monster Hunter Wilds, the game looks a lot worse. There are a lot of missing textures, on the characters, the models, the background, the monsters, and so on. And it looks a lot more detailed in the 16 gigabyte version. But in this case, this is in 1440p Ultra. You can see that the FPS suffers on the 8 gigabyte card. In the 16 gigabyte card, the FPS is actually higher. It's about double. And you can see that there are missing textures on the 8 gigabyte version of the game, presentation of the game. It looks like a PS2 game, right? And a 16 gigabyte version, it doesn't. Monster Hunter Wilds isn't the best looking game, so you can see that, yeah, it's still not the best looking, but you can see that there are more textures on the rock, more textures on your cat, compared to like missing textures on the rock, missing textures on the cat. So by going with 8 gigabytes, 8 gigabyte GPU, you are making a lot of sacrifices in your gaming experience, especially if you are playing like more modern games that has higher textures, such as Space Marine 2, such as Monster Hunter Wilds, both very popular games. And I'm sure like Oblivion Remastered as well is also a pretty popular game. I don't think he made a comparison for Doom. Has he? Has he made a comparison for Doom? Oh, he has. So he made a comparison for Doom. Doom doesn't seem to suffer that much. So Doom is a pretty well optimized game. Maybe there are some missing textures here and there. But yeah, we can't really tell in his review of Doom. So anyway, if you're considering a 5060 8 gigabyte GPU, please don't. I strongly suggest you go to the used market, look for a 3070, look for a used 3080, or even better yet, look for a used 6800 from AMD, 6800 XTs from AMD. Because you can see 6800 selling at $380. That's the same price as some of the 3070s are selling, and this is a 16 gigabyte GPU. 6800 XT, $450. That's a better version of the 6800, right? 6800 XT. Yeah, 6800 XTs are selling at a pretty good price, below 500. There's a 6800 here selling at 350, but this is 2 years ago, so probably is no longer responsive. But yeah, so yeah, there are much better options in the used market. So if you're especially pre-builds, like if you're looking to buy a pre-build and the pre-build is featuring a 5060 with 8 gigabyte of GPU, or even better yet, the 5060 Ti with 8 gigabyte GPU, please don't buy that pre-build. At least go for a pre-build that gives you like a 7700 XT. Because the 7700 XT, if you're buying brand new, has 12 gigabytes of VRAM and is priced probably around 600. Like you can find it, the cheaper models price around below 600 or around 600. But this 7700 XT, I believe, performs slightly better than the 6800 from AMD, and it has 12 gigabytes of VRAM. So it's a lot more future proofing. It can run a lot of the more modern games at the full texture resolution. If you have the budget of 600 plus, and so on, go for a 7800 XT. Like if you're buying a pre-build, try to avoid any cards that has 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And unfortunately, many of the budget previews are gonna feature the 5060 and the 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte. At least go for the 5060 Ti 16 gigabytes so that you don't suffer from VRAM issues. Yeah, so that's about it. So avoid the 5060 8 gigabyte, avoid the 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte, brand new or in pre-builds, look for used cards instead. Okay, we will see you guys in the next one.